Very good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are doing fine. And I am Sri Ridhima Bhatia. We are discussing your deductions from the gross total income. This is your final lecture on the deductions from the gross total income. Up till now, we have discussed the deductions till section 80G. So today we'll be proceeding with 80GG or 80GG, and we'll go till the last part of this chapter. So before we proceed, if you have any doubts from the previous class or the previous sessions, please drop in quickly and then we'll start. I hope you people are doing the questions which have been taught, illustrations have been covered. So deduction under section 80EE, 80EEA, 80EEB are not for one time. The time till the loan is going on, the interest deduction would be there. One time ho nahi, till the time the loan is going on. So if I've taken a vehicle, electric vehicle, and I am within the condition, so I can claim 1,50,000 every year under 80EEB, provided I'm not claiming the interest under section 36 also or 37 while computing my PGBP income. Good morning, everyone. So let's start. Good morning, Pramod, Darshan, Kriti. All the attendees are here today. Sudhanshu, Harshita, Varsha, Bhumika, Komal, Madhav. Very good. Okay. So let's start. Anyone has any other doubt? I know. Last time also someone asked me that how do we remember all these sections? Kaise limits yaad hoga? How would we remember what are the limits? What are the conditions? The only thing is recurrence, as in practice and practice and practice. If you will do that thing again and again and again, you will remember it. Obviously, that being said, make summary notes, make flags which you have to remember, highlight the points which are actually the main crucial point or the border lines to differentiate between different sections. So that habit has to be developed. Self-studying, self-practicing, self-noting also has to be developed, okay? Bhumika, deduction of insurance premium till the time, not of maturity, till the time you're paying the premium, you will get the deduction provided it is within the 1,50,000 limit. So I hope the screen is visible. Deduction in respect of rent paid. Now this section is for the deduction of expenditure which is in the nature of rent. Now कभी किसी ने सोचा कि रेंट का डिडक्शन तो मैम ये कहीं लग रहा है, वी हैव सीन दिस इन HRA, हाउस रेंट अलाउंस, उसमें एग्जेम्पशन मिलता है बेस्ड ऑन द रेंट पेड बाय द एसएससी एंड नो कंडीशंस, राइट? करेक्ट. So then why this deduction in respect of rent paid? Guys, that deduction is only available for employees who are getting HRA component as a salary and then they're claiming it as an exemption. But employees where there is no HRA component specifically, there's only basic salary, say, or employer or self-employed person, as in I am not employed anywhere, suppose, and I want to claim the deduction of rent paid. Can I do under HRA? Because there is no salary, how can I claim under HRA, right? So for those people where there is no HRA, if they are employee or if they are not employed, two people, no HRA if being an employee or if they are not an employee. Because agar HRA hai, so rent would be claimed as exemption under section 10 clause 13, right? But agar HRA nahi hai, or you are a self-employed person, then you will claim deduction under 80GG. सबसे पहले eligible assessee has to be clear. Eligible assessee now clear. Now the point comes कि ma'am, what is the deduction? Deduction is obviously the rent paid, but what is the threshold limit? What is the threshold limit, ma'am? Kitna deduction would be allowed? So the deduction would be allowed would be based on actual rent, which you can see, minus 10% of, वहां पे HRA के लिए आप करते थे सैलरी, यहाँ पे 10% of gross total income or adjusted gross GTI or adjusted total income, whatever word you have to say. Actual rent minus 10% of adjusted GTI, 25% of adjusted GTI, or your amount calculated at 5,000 per month. Matlab, if the rent is for 10 months, then 5,000 into 10. If the rent is for entire year, then 5,000 into 12. इसमें से whichever is lower would be allowed to be claimed as deduction for the rent paid. So if my gross total income, यहाँ पे what gross total income नहीं है guys, यहाँ पे है adjusted gross total income. So adjusted gross total income means GTI minus chapter 6A deductions. All chapter 6A deductions, except obviously 80GG because you're computing that. Whatever amount comes, uska 10% you have to do. Actual rent minus this, number one, 25% of this, or your 60,000. तीनों में से whatever is lower, generally 60,000 is lower, you will claim it as deduction under 80GG. So in this example, if I say there is a Ganesh, a businessman, whose total income before allowing deduction under 80GG is 460. यहाँ पे total income लिखा हुआ है, that means it is GTI minus the other deductions, that is the total income, okay? It's 460. Paid house rent of 12,000 per month in respect of residential accommodation occupied by him at Mumbai. Compute the deduction allowable under section 80GG. For assessment year 23-24, obviously. So अब cases start करेंगे. First of all, my actual rent is 1,44,000. 12,000 into 12, 1,44,000. First dimension पे आते हैं, ठीक है? Minus 10% of 460, which is 46,000, comes to 98, correct? 10% of adjusted total income, question में clearly दिया हुआ है. 24% of 460, which comes to 1,15,000, and third, 5,000 per month into 12, 60,000. So obviously 60,000 is the lowest which would be allowed to be claimed as deduction under 80GG. Some other points for 80GG which you should remember. The first point to claim 80GG, you have to file a form which is called Form 10BA. Ye return if few people have filed, otherwise return file karte time ही, it comes as a quick declaration where you have to tell about what is the address of the property, what is the address of the landlord, rent which is paid during the year. Simple, wo bhar ke, you submit it as a declaration and you say that it is true and fair. That is called Form 10BA. Second thing, that wherever this is for rent, right? This is for rent, and rent, you may be paying rent because of you don't have a house, or if you have a house but you don't have a house in that city in which you are working. For example, I am paying rent in Delhi, so I can claim 80GG provided I don't have any other house in Delhi, which is my place. I'm paying rent here. Why? Because I'm working here, right? So I can claim the deduction in the 80GG provided I don't have any other house in Delhi. If I have any house in Mumbai, I can claim 80GG because my workplace may or my place of duty may there is or my place of employment may there is no house which is owned either by me or by my spouse or by my minor child or by my HUF. ठीक है? So मतलब ownership नहीं है क्योंकि अगर घर already है, why are you not living in that house? And why are you claiming 80GG, right? If in that place you still have a house, why you are not living there? So with this logic, it goes in the declaration that where this deduction would be allowed if assessee or his spouse or minor child or the HUA जिसका वो member है does not have any residential accommodation where he is ordinarily residing because of the employment. Got it? So that has to be the two main criteria to claim 80GG. And ये सब किस में जाता है? Declaration में in form 10BA, which has to be filed before the return is filed. Got it? So 80GG is deduction for rent paid. It is allowed to any assessee who's an individual, but it would be only allowed if the assessee is not claiming deduction in respect of house rent allowance. If he does not have an option, if he has house rent allowance, he has to claim deduction under house rent allowance. Then he cannot go under, he has to claim exemption under house rent allowance. He cannot go under 80GG. Clear? So can I say maximum deduction in the 80GG would be 60,000? Yes, correct. So अगर आपको MCQ आ गया, what is the maximum deduction under 80GG? You will not look for rent paid or etc. etc. It's obviously 60,000. You cannot have more than that. Darshan, I hope your question is clear. 80GG is very simple. And now as a tax consultant, when you will be going in a role, suggest people to claim 80GG if they're paying rent and if they are self-employed. People forget to claim these sections. So these are also tax saving sections, okay? The next section which we are now proceeding to is called ATGGA. Deduction in respect of donations. Now 80G से donation शुरू हो जाता है, but बीच में बस double G आता है for rent. GGA is also donation, GGB is also donation, GGC is also donation. So remember, G वाला line is for donation, E वाला line is for interest, except G में 80GG is for rent. This is how you can remember it, okay? Donation for scientific research and rural development. Now you will say कि ma'am ये तो again सुना सा लग रहा है जैसे rent paid था. This is also heard, right? This you have heard when you were talking about PGBP. Profits and gains of business and profession में donation for scientific research, statistical research, to universities, to research association was covered there. Correct? Yes, it was covered there. But एक बात बताओ, for a person who does not have an income from profits or gains of business or profession, where would that person claim deduction for donations of scientific research? Because if you have income from business or profession, You can claim these donations as deduction under section 35, etc. Right? 35 subsection 1, etc. 35 CC maybe here rural development ka, right? But if you don't have income from business or gain, income from profits and gains of business or profession, then where will you claim this deduction? The question comes, then where will you claim these deductions? Then, my friends, these deductions are claimed under section 80GGA. So, can I say the assessee who has business or profession would not claim 80GGA? Can I conclude that? Yes, I can conclude, because if you have profession wala, business wala income, then you have to claim it under the computation of PGBP income. But when you don't have, then you claim it under 80GGA. So कोई भी business वाला 80GGA would not claim, he would claim under section 35 and so on. So यहाँ पे कौन कौन सा sections है मैम which are covered? यहाँ पे भी same donations which are there. We'll go to the list, but the donation allowed here is 100%. You give donation of 2 lakh rupees, you get the deduction of 2 lakh rupees. You give donation of 4 lakh rupees, you get the deduction of 4 lakh rupees. You give donations in crores, you get the donation, the deduction in crores. Any FSC hai. So companies can also claim here, but companies, if they have obviously the PGBP income, they would claim it under the PGBP head. Second condition which you have to remember, we'll come to the list. Second condition which you have to remember is that the donation, if it is made in cash, should not be, so cash donation should not be more than 2,000. Cash donation should not be more than 2,000. Now, what are the qualifying deductions? यहाँ पे same qualifying deductions हैं, but एक चीज I'll let you remember अभी आता है, ठीक है? First of all, again, scientific research के लिए you are making the donation to any university, college, etc. Research associations go for statistical research or social science research के लिए if you are making the donation. Any sum paid by the SSC for rural development program. ये सब आपका 35 CCA में है, सब PGBP में already line से you must have studied all these, okay? Or any sum paid to a public sector company or institution approved by National Committee for an eligible project. ठीक है, but यहाँ पे एक चीज याद रखना कि remember when we were doing 80G, I told you all national wale funds are in my first category of 100% deduction. बस एक drought वाला it would be in 50%. एक और चीज बस याद रखना that this national urban poverty fund would not go under 80G. ये नहीं है कि मैम ने कहा था कि मैम national वाले सब 80G category 1 में आ जाएंगे. Poverty वाला would go under 80GG A, 80GG A. National Poverty Eradication Fund is under 80GG. So 80GG में how would you remember? Scientific research, statistical research और rural development or poverty. ये दो 80GG A का part है. Got it? So 80GG A में any assessee can claim deduction provided they do not have an income which is taxed under the head PGBP, and no deduction would be allowed in respect of cash donation over 2,000. Scientific research, statistical research, rural development, project or schemes, everything is covered under your 80GGA. National Urban Poverty Eradication Fund is also covered under 80GGA. Again, that being said, you cannot claim double deduction. If you have claimed deduction under 80GGA, you will not claim deduction under any other section for this contribution. Okay? Clear? चलो, यहाँ तक किसी को कोई डाउट? Darshan, if SSC is donating 3,000 in cash and 10,000 in electronic mode, then 10,000 would be allowed. Varsha, you are not receiving the donation. You are the person who is making the donation. Deduction is for the person who is making the donation. So 80GGA is not for receiving perspective. Sudhanshu, 80GG is for the people who are self-employed or if you're not receiving HRA. Because if you're receiving HRA, you will claim HRA exemption, ना? ये तो है ही उन्हीं के लिए. Komal, 12,000 into 12, 144. 10 BMA Krishna, all these details, aapka, where do you live? What is the name of landlord? Where do landlord live? And the rent amount. ठीक है, यहाँ तक किसी को कोई doubt? So 80GGA is allowed to all these SEs, again and again I'm saying, but not to the SEs who have business income, because they can claim the deduction under that respective section. चलो, next part is, I hope किसी को कोई note करना था तो वो कर लिया. Next part is again donation. $80GGB and $80GGC. Both of them talks about donation for contribution made to political parties or electoral trust. Electoral trust. Both the section talks about the same thing, but the difference is 80GGB is for Indian company and 80GGC is for other than Indian company. So if an Indian company is making a donation to a political party, and that political party can be any party, then they will claim the deduction under 80GGB. But if you are making, or I am making, or NHF is making, or a partnership firm is making a donation to a political party, they will claim deduction under section 80GGC. But dono mein again the same thing is common, that no donation should be made in cash mode. 80GGA में donation up to 2,000 in cash is allowed, but GGB and GGC में no donation in cash allowed. So you have to be careful if you want to claim donation for political parties or electoral trust, then you cannot make donation in cash. You have to make the donation in any mode other than cash, account pay check, electronic transfer, whatever it is, but not in cash mode. And these are the donations which you have to make during the year. कहीं पे भी आई एम नॉट रिटन डोनेशन बिफोर रिटर्न फाइलिंग, जहाँ पे भी रिटर्न फाइलिंग का क्राइटेरिया होगा वी विल टॉक अबाउट दैट, बट हियर इट इज डोनेशंस in or any expenditure which are made during the year. So then only you would be allowed the deduction under ATGGB or ATGGC respectively. यहाँ पे कोई डाउट? ओके, बस ATGGC में एक और चीज याद रखना, एनी लोकल अथॉरिटी और एनी आर्टिफिशियल जुरिडिकल पर्सन, any local authority or artificial juridical person which is government funded, either wholly or partly government funded hai, they cannot claim ATGGC. ATGGC can be claimed by anyone but not by a government funded local authority or AGP. Central government, state government kahin nahi likha ho, government funded local authority or government funded artificial juridical person cannot claim ATGGC. एंड यहाँ पे गाइस डोनेशन का बात हो रहा है. इफ यू रिमेम्बर सेक्शन 37 ऑल्सो, if donation is made by an assessee on advertisement in any souvenir, brochure, pamphlet which is published by political party, it is not deductible. So same, that is also not deductible. आप उनके advertisement में पैसा spend कर रहे हो and you are saying you are claiming ATGGC, that would not be allowed. ठीक है, simple sober donation are sections also covered. So ATG is donation for those specific list of institutions of fund whereby any assessee can claim the donation. There are 4 categories: 100%, 50% without qualifying limit, and 100%, 50% with qualifying limit. Qualifying limit is actually my 10% of adjusted gross total income. उसमें से adjusted gross total income में से पहले 100% of the qualifying limit को minus करके whatever is left versus donation, whichever is lower, उसका 50% would be allowed as deduction. ATGG, payment of rent for residential house property, is only allowed to individual who is not getting HRA. If he is getting HRA, he would claim deduction, the exemption for HRA. Maximum deduction allowed is 60,000. ATGGA, donation for scientific research, rural development, and poverty eradication. It is again also allowed to any assessee not having income from business or profession, and it is allowed up to 100% of the donation made. ATGGB and ATGGC both are donation to political party or electoral trust, but ATGGB is for Indian companies, GGC is for any person other than local authority or AGP funded by the government, and 100% of the donation is allowed. Clear? May 23 wala you can use for November 23. Please include the amendment which comes through RTP. Yes, Darshan, you can say a foreign company can claim ATGGC. You can say so. No, Bhumika, LLP is receiving fund from the government. They can claim the deduction ATGGC. Only local authority and your artificial juridical person are not covered. जो वहां पे लिखा है उसके अलावा आप कुछ एक्स्ट्रा कभी भी लॉ में यू विल नॉट इंटरप्रेट. Whatever is written, just go by the lines, okay, and by the intention of the law. Now we come to a very interesting section. So if you people were still sleepy, were still under a snooze mode, please get up now. And it's a very interesting, very, very important section called ATJJAA. So please wake up, guys. Just 1 second. I think my system is hanging. One second. One second, student. I think there is some hanging going on. Just 1 second. Huh? Just 1 second. My system, my notepad is not working. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry. Shall we start? So sorry, students, actually this notepad got hanged. So we are talking about now the major category, which is now coming forward is deduction in respect of certain incomes. Now I told you, यहाँ पे, when you talk about chapter 6A, we talk about deductions in respect of expenditure. And abhi tak, if you revise quickly what we have done in the past two classes, everywhere it was some expenditure or everywhere there was some investment which was going on. That being said, for example, ATC mein there are premiums, there are investments like FD, etc. ATD mein there are again medical premiums, then ATDD is again for expenditure of maintenance, then ATE is again interest line going on, ATG is again donation. So all of these are in respect of expenditure. Now there is a heading C in chapter 6A, which talks about your deduction in respect of certain incomes, which talks about deduction in respect of your certain incomes. And if you remember the first class where we talked about that if you want to claim deduction in these particular heads, in these particular section, which goes from ATIA to your ATRRB, etc., then you have to file the return within the due date. You cannot file a late return. You have to file the return within the due date, correct? So heading C, my friends, is not an easy heading. It goes from various complex parts from ATIA, IB, IC, IE, IAC, goes on ATP, ATQ, ATRRB, ATQQB, and it goes on. And you'll see these are all naturally in respect of incomes. But if you have a certain type of income or if you are a certain type of assessee, then maybe the profits would be allowed as deduction. Maybe some quantum of profit would be allowed as deduction, or maybe some quantum of income would be allowed as deduction. मतलब income पे ही deduction without any other criteria of expenditure. So it is based on income, correct? So it goes from ATIA, but at your level, these sections are not there. These sections, which are ATIA, IB, IC, ATP, these are not there. These are discussed in final. So deduction chapter in final, if you see deduction in inter as itna chapter, in final it is itna because of all these certain incomes ke deductions. But that being said, heading C may we will cover still heading C of chapter 6A may will still cover three sections, ATJJAA. This is a very important section. Question has a there is a lot of significance when I talk about coming from the question perspective. ATQQB and your section ATRRB. ATQQB, ATRRB, ATTTA and TTB. Ye subsections are the next part which we'll be going to cover. ATJJAA, ATQQB, ATRRB, ATTTA, ATTTB. Basically, TTA, TTB is not part of certain income section heading C. This is part of other income. Certain incomes may, which is heading C may, these are the one which we are going to cover. ATJJA, ATQPB, ATRRB. बहुत बड़ा list है, but it is not covered under interlevel. Clear? Now let's proceed with ATJJAA. अब आप बोलोगे कि मैम यहाँ पे तो थोड़ा सा अजीब सा लग रहा है because you say that these are for certain incomes and the moment I read the heading, deduction in respect of employment of new employees. यहाँ पे there is employment का deduction, employment expenses का deduction, but this is basically for certain assessees. So let's begin. सबसे पहले ATJJA is allowed only to whom? Only to the assessees who have to get the tax audit done. Only to the assessees who have to get the tax audit done. जिन पे tax audit applicable है. अगर tax audit नहीं है, you cannot claim ATJJA. The preceding condition is any assessee on whom tax audit is applicable. If tax audit is not applicable, ATJJAA cannot be claimed. अब यहाँ पे what is the ma'am deduction criteria? So deduction criteria पे जाने से पहले let's discuss why this deduction claim. Now this deduction is basically to promote employment in your sector, to promote employment. तो employment को promote करने के लिए, to promote employment, the assessee is given a certain benefit. Employment किस चीज की? लोगों की. So they are given a certain benefit. अब benefit कैसे देंगे? Let's see. अब when you have any employee under you, you give them salary, you claim deduction of salary, right? इतना ही पता है. I'm giving you salary and I will claim deduction of salary in my PGBP income. That is correct, right? But this section particularly allows 30% of additional employee cost, 30% of additional employee cost for 3 consecutive years. अब ये क्या लिखा है मैम? 30% of additional employee cost for 3 consecutive years. So in a way, 30% I can claim in 3 years of the additional employee cost. And in a way, I'm claiming 100% in salary and 90% approximately of their salary in 3 years. In 3 years. So additional employee cost क्या होता है? I'll come to that. But if I have to give you a scenario of additional employee cost, suppose additional employee मतलब new employees का cost. Suppose new employee का cost to me, cost क्या होगा? Salary. New employee का cost to me is 4 lakh. So 4 lakh का 30%, that is 1,20,000 I can claim in year 1 when additional employee comes, 120 in year 2 and 120 in year 3. So in a way, अब क्या हुआ? ध्यान से समझना. ये 4 lakh को I will claim as deduction under my salary computation, my PGBP computation. Think yourself as a business entity. 4 lakh जो salary दिया, it would be claimed as deduction under PGBP, correct? ये तो simple है. But coming to the concept of ATJJA, यहाँ पे what will happen? This 4 lakh का 30% would be allowed as deduction in year 1, year 2 and year 3. So एक cost को I'm claiming it as salary also and I'm claiming it as 30% for 3 years also. So it's a very, very big motivation factor for the companies or for the assessees to create job, because they are spending 100 rupees and they are claiming a reduction of 100 rupees under your salary income also, under your PGBP head also, and 30% for the next 3 years, including the year when you spend 100. So सबसे पहले I will not go into the nitty-gritties of it. I wanted to understand first how the deduction is claimed. अब वो additional, अब सारा point is how this additional employee cost is calculated, ma'am. अब वो सारा point is on this. But how am I claiming the deduction? Is that clear? How do you calculate additional employee cost? Would be next 10 minutes. But first, additional employee cost आ गया. What is the deduction criteria is what we have to see. So year 1, year 2, year 3 में same amount का deduction मिलेगा, and year 1 would be the year when you have employed those additional employees. So one cost incurred can be claimed as deduction in the year of incurrence as salary, वो तो छोड़ दो. But from the deduction perspective of ATJJA, you will claim that cost for 3 years. For 3 years. अब you will say, कि ma'am, if tax audit does not happen, suppose year 2 में I'm not applicable for tax audit, then what? Then you cannot claim ATJJA. I'm sorry. Or if the employees left, then you can claim 80JJA. Yes, even then also. Even if you're not incurring the cost of those employees in the coming years, then also you can claim 80JJA. This is the beauty of this particular section. This is such a big motivational factor for the employers to get more employees into their business so that they can claim 80JJA. Because अगर employee चला भी गया, still you can claim 80JJA because you have incurred the cost in year one. Year one का cost 3 साल में deduction मिल रहा है 30%. Year one का cost को ही 3 years you are claiming 30% deduction fixed amount. ये clear होना बहुत जरूरी है to understand further. So yes, no, I want everyone to reply. क्लेम कैसे करेंगे डिडक्शन वो क्लियर है. अब देखते हैं कि एडिशनल कॉस्ट क्या होता है. कहीं पे भी कंफ्यूजन? ओके. चलो अब सारा पॉइंट आता है कि व्हाट इज एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट. एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट समझने के लिए वी विल ब्रेक इट अप इनटू टू पार्ट्स. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल व्हाट इज एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय एंड देन ओनली उसका कॉस्ट निकालेंगे ना. व्हाट इज एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय. एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय का बात हो रहा है बिकॉज इट्स ऑल अबाउट एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन. दैट मीन्स न्यू एम्प्लॉय का डिडक्शन मिलेगा अंडर सेक्शन 80JJA. So if there are no new employees, if there is no increase in the labor force, I cannot say 80JJA would be claimed. So additional employee के लिए labor force increase होना is very mandatory. Now labor force increase मतलब opening as on the first date of the previous year, or you can say last day of the preceding previous year. May how many number of employees were there? Say 100. And last day of the year May, how many employees were there? You will say 120. So additional employees कितने हुए? 20. अब suppose 100 आए, 100 थे beginning में, 50 आए, but 60 छोड़ गए. So you will not see that 50 का आपने employment generation किया है because at the end of the year there is no increase in the number of employees from the total number of employees of the preceding year. There should be an increase, and that increase is after obviously the people who have left. You will not say कि मैं 50 आए तो इसको लेना ही है. Closing date पे and opening date का difference is my additional employee number one. Is it clear? So opening and closing date का difference. 100 आए, 100 थे, 50 आए, 10 left. Now what is the additional employee? 40. 40. Okay. So additional employee is mandatory. Even if आपने साल में किया है, but people left, so you cannot help them. Okay, you cannot help them. Second, अगर आप बोलोगे कि मैम additional employee you are saying, but मैम अगर if it's a first year of business, then first year of business है, obviously preceding comparison नहीं है, then whatever employees are hired during the year are all additional employees. ठीक है, are all additional employees. First year में all are the additional employees. So running business में preceding and closing last year का last date का and इस year का last date का comparison. But if you are talking about a new business, then whatever the employees are there in the new business would be the additional employee, number one. Number two, which you have to remember is that to the employees, the salary should be paid through either account pay check, तभी उन्हें आप additional employee में लोगे, account pay bank draft. You have to pay them salary in any mode other than cash basically, if you want to take them in the additional employee wala part. Electronic clearing system, IMPS, NEFT, ये सब prescribed electronic modes है. You have to pay them salary through these modes, ठीक है. उसके साथ साथ एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय, जब ये पार्ट क्लियर हो गया, उसके साथ साथ अब वंस द एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय इज क्लियर, सपोज 50 का इंक्रीज हुआ, इसमें से भी फ्रॉम दिस वी विल रिमूव द एम्प्लॉइज हु हैव मोर देन 25,000 per month का salary. So the total emoluments, as in total salary, total basic salary word नहीं use किया, total emoluments are more than 25,000 per month, we will remove them. तो सबसे पहले step 1 क्या हुआ? I calculated my additional number of employees. Additional number of employees कौन से हो गए? Closing and opening date के number of employees को लेंगे. उसमें से obviously I will pick only those जिसमें I am paying through account pay, check, account pay, bank draft, electronic clearing system, etc. Then now, whatever the number is left, इसमें से people who are being paid more than 25,000 per month, okay, would be excluded, because government wants to create jobs at low level, at ground level. They want you to create jobs at ground level. अब CEOs and management and top management को tier up को बढ़ाई जाओ, you increase your tier up tier, they do not care. So the idea now is more clear that why government came up with 80JJAA, because they want to create more jobs at the ground level. Next, इसमें से if any employee who is not additional employee निकालने के बाद, these have to be excluded. कौन सर? जो who are earning more than 25,000 per month, then who are not contributing to RPF. Employees who are not participating in RPF, recognized provident fund. मतलब if you are not having their recognized provident fund, then you cannot take up them. Even if उनका 25,000 से कम है, but they are not participating in RPF. कौन से होंगे? Employees who are on casual income basis, contract basis, those would also be excluded because they do not participate in RPF. उसके अलावा condition is employees whose entire contribution is paid by the government for NPS, etc. मतलब employer से contribution नहीं ले रहे, the government से ही direct पूरा का पूरा contribution is going. Government is paying the entire contribution to the pension scheme and provident fund, to the EPS. And last and the most important criteria, additional employee have to work for at least 240 days during the previous year. If they're not working 240 days in the previous year, they would not be covered as additional employee. So employees who are employed for less than 240 days in the previous year would also be excluded. So pehle, what did you do? You calculated the increased amount of employees minus करके closing and opening. From that, you remove more than 25,000 all employees. From that, you remove people who are not contributing to RPF. From that, you remove employees who pensions is completely funded by government. Then from that, you also remove employees who have been employed for less than 240 days in the previous year. तो आप बोलोगे कि मैम बचाई क्या? No worries, no problem. Less than 240 days in the previous year. And this 240 has to be taken as 150 if I'm talking about seasonal industry. Seasonal industry like apparel, footwear, and leather industries. So if I'm talking about these industries, the 240 days ka criteria nahi hai, the criteria is 150 days. So these would be your additional employees. Up question is additional employee का cost क्या होगा? Because the proper part is 30% of the additional employee cost. First you come to the additional employees, you see उसमें से किस किस को लेना है, किस किस को हटाना है, who has to be taken, who has to be removed. Now after that you come to your additional employee cost. The cost is actually the amount which is paid as an employment or in the name of employment or in lieu of employment. It can be basic salary, it can be HRA, it can be anything. Whatever is the sum paid to an employee would be considered here as emoluments, but obviously the contribution to any fund or any retirement benefits would not be considered as emoluments. So regularly based your salary would be considered as emoluments. ठीक है, ये हमारा additional employee cost would come. Now on that cost का 30% for 3 consecutive years. Okay. Now if you see, I have put a star. I put a star here that employees who are working for less than or who are employed for a period of less than 240 days in the previous year has to be excluded from the additional employees. Correct? So if I'm excluding someone from this additional employee criteria, the people who are excluded, they would become the new employees of the next year, as in unka cost would be taken as additional employee of the next year, and they unka cost would be entitled to 30% deduction in the next year wale additional employee wala cost. So if someone is working for say 100 days in this year, so obviously I will exclude them, but next year I will take them as new employee and claim deduction of 30% on their cost for the next 3 consecutive years. Every year additional employees ka additional cost 30% 3 years milega. So if I am employing someone today, or in this year, I will get the deduction this year, next year, and next to next year. The person who is employed in the next year would get the deduction, I would be eligible to claim deduction for them in the next year plus next 2 years. It goes on and on and on. Okay? So if this person who has been excluded because of less than 240 days, he would be considered as new employee of the next year and would be allowed to claim as 30% deduction provided he stays in the next year for 240 or 150 days. ठीक है, अब एक बार क्वेश्चन करेंगे फिर से, then we'll come back to the criteria and then we will close this particular ATJJA along with other points. Correct, Mohammed. It is a double benefit. Rather, it is more than double. मतलब 30% every year. It is definitely a double benefit. तभी तो ATJJA came so that people get more motivated to create employment, because एक तो उनको वैसे salary deduction मिलेगा plus extra deduction भी it would be allowed. I went very slow explaining it. Now let's do the question. Mr. A has commenced the business of manufacturing of computers on 1st April 22. He employed 350 new employees during the previous year, who are as follow. Okay. The regular employees participate in recognized provident fund, while the casual employees do not. Compute the deduction, if any, available to Mr. A for assessment year 23-24 if the profits and gains derived from the manufacturing of computers that year is 75 lakhs and its turnover is 10.16 crores. Would your answer be different if Mr. A has commenced the business of footwear? So, pehle we will not focus on footwear. Sabse pehle we will focus on this line. This tells me that this person is eligible for tax audit. The moment the person is eligible for tax audit, I will come to the point, and employees the cost is given, I will come to the point of 80JJAA. Now, out of this 350 total employees, first I have to see what is my additional employee. Since it's a new business, all the employees are additional employee. But now I will exclude one by one. I will take this set 75 employees in my additional employee. Yes, because एक तो 240 days से ज़्यादा है, 25,000 से कम है, and they are participating in PF. So this is pretty much clear that these are my additional employees. Correct? Next, will I take these as additional employees? Will I take them in my additional employee? No, I will exclude them. Reason being, more than 25,000. Will I take next 50 in my additional employee during the year? No, because they are casual employees not contributing to PF. Will I take this 100 in my additional employee during the year? Less than 25,000, but they are working or they are employed for less than 240 days. So they would not be included in 80JJAA criteria for this year. They would be included in the next year. So only additional employees which I can see working for me is, working in the sense for 80JJAA is this set. So 75 into 12, 12 महीने का into 24,000. This would come as my additional employee cost. So additional employee cost is coming, my friends, as $216,000,000. ठीक है, ये आ गया मेरा additional employee cost. Now what would be the deduction? 30% of 216,000,000, which is 2,16 lakhs. Total 64,80,000 would be the deduction in year 1, year 2, and year 3. Same amount. That is, in this case, for the previous year, in this case, 64,80,000 I will claim as deduction in previous year, 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25. 64,80,000. Up next year, if I talk from the next year perspective, so next year, ये तो claim करना ही है 23, 24 में. If suppose no other employees are taken up in next year, तो ये जो 24,000 वाला percent है ना, into 100, into suppose everyone is there, into 12. So this would be taken as additional employee of the next year. So 24,000 into 12 into 100. The 30%, which would come to 8640. If all of them stays, then 8640 would be claimed as deduction along with this for previous year 23, 24, 24, 25, and 25, 26. This would be additional employee for previous year 23, 24. Got it? अब समझ आया? Now the question says, would your answer be different had the person being employed in the business of manufacturing of footwear? Now, seasonal industry में 240 days का criteria is reduced to 150 days. So obviously, ye wale employees bhi, this employees would also be covered under my this year का additional employee and this year का additional employee के cost में they will come. So total additional employees के cost में it would be 2 crore 16 lakhs पहले वाला and 24,000 into 7 into 100. 7 क्यों? Because from September they have joined. So 3 crore 84 lakhs would be my additional employee cost. इसका 30% would be allowed as deduction in year 1, year 2 and year 3. Got it? Now, can I summarize how I have to compute my ATJJAA? First of all, I have to see the assessee is in business and is applicable for tax audit. Then I will compare if it's a new business or if it's a ongoing business. New business and whatever employees are hired are my additional employees. Ongoing may I have to compare it by the difference of opening and closing. Usme se, I will remove the employees who are being paid in cash. They should be paid in any mode other than cash, account pay, check, account pay, bank draft, etc., etc. From that, I will remove employees for the criteria which is more than 25,000, not contributing to RPF, or their entire EPS is funded by the central government or the government, and or they are not working for 240 days or more. So if they're working for less than 240 days, they would be excluded, but they would be taken as additional employee of the next year. Or in case of apparel industry, footwear industry, leather industry, 240 days would be reduced to 150 days. Usme se I will calculate their cost. Cost matlab proper emoluments, whatever is being given to them, and then into the period they were employed, total cost for the year would come. Uska 30% would be allowed as deduction. Bas, simple. In for 3 consecutive years. People still have a misunderstanding कि सिर्फ 3 साल ही ATJJAA मिलता है. नहीं, you create more employment every year, you get ATJJAA का benefit for 3 years. Even if employees leave, if process 25,000 in the consecutive years, a fixed amount is allowed as deduction for 3 consecutive years. So I hope this is clear. उसके साथ साथ some basic points from the perspective of compliance, which you have to remember is okay. Uske साथ साथ what you have to remember is, first of all, tax audit has to be done, and tax audit has to be done within the due date, which is 30th September. If the tax audit is not done within the due date, then you cannot claim ATJJA. If in the subsequent years you do not become eligible for tax audit, you cannot claim ATJJAA. To claim ATJJAA, a list of all these emoluments, everything would be reported by the accountant, as in chartered accountant, in form 10DA. Form 10DA. Okay. Secondly, other conditions, your business for which you're claiming this deduction should be not formed as splitting up or reconstruction of an existing business, or it should not be acquired by way of transfer from any person as a result of business reorganization. It should be a new business, basically, for you to remember. So that is the conditions other than calculating or how to calculate it. Okay? Got it? Now tell me, what are your doubts under ATJJAA? रूबिका 24,000 वो 100 एम्प्लॉयज के लिए जो जिनको नेक्स्ट ईयर मिलेगा बिकॉज दे वर वर्किंग फॉर लेस देन 240 days. Mohammed, what is the date of employment is in between the months? मतलब please come up with your questions. Please tell me 80JJAA is clear or not. Very important section from your perspective. It can come as a full-fledged question also. It can come as a MCQ. It can be hidden in a big PGBP question. जहां पे भी न्यू एम्प्लॉइज लिखा, एडिशनल एम्प्लॉइज लिखा, यू शुड बी क्लियर दैट दिस इज अ 80JJAA वाला क्वेश्चन. If in the subsequent year tax audit not applicable, consequently your additional employee cost of 80JJAA would not be allowed. सबसे पहले आंसर दिस टू योरसेल्फ कि आपको एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट और एडिशनल एम्प्लॉय का मतलब समझ आया. Ganshu, एक बार ये अपना डोनेशन वाला क्वेश्चन फिर से भेजो प्लीज, if you still have a doubt in it. So if an employee is joined on 20, see these questions are for just to make you understand. Practically, whatever is the cost during the year, that would be from the date of joining only. That joining can be mid-month, can be any day of the month, does not matter. जो आप cost actually निकालोगे employees का, वो from the date of joining till the end of the year would be your additional employee cost, provided they have worked for 240 more than 240 days. अब किसी ने अप्रैल में ज्वाइन किया एंड देन ही लेफ्ट इन जून, you will not consider it. Obviously, additional employee opening and closing, and उसमें से then you have to see who have worked for 240 days. यहाँ पे कोई पार्ट मंथ और फुल मंथ वाला कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है, 240 days वाला कॉन्सेप्ट है. It's just that for the ease of preference, you are given days which are starting from the month, etc. ठीक है. So let's take break. If you people have this clear, we will join after break. After break, we have very less sections left, but I am there with you. 80JJAA was purposely taken step by step. If you have still any doubt, please feel free to ask after break. So we will get in touch again. Okay? Sorted? Chalo. Sir, break please. So welcome back after the break, everyone. कहीं पे भी किसी को डाउट है, guys? पक्का? Because 80JJA is again a very technical section. JJA is a very technical section. Chalo, good. Now we proceed to our last third branch which is left, which is ATRRB, ATQQB, and your ATTTA, TTB. ATU we already did when we were doing ATD. ATQQB समझ आ गया? ATRRB is the easiest one comparatively. Now, since this branch is called deduction in respect of incomes, and here the income which we are referring to is royalty. That if you have a royalty income, a royalty क्या होता है, guys? Royalty is basically when you share any of, when I talk about ATQQB, when you share any of your personal work, as in work of art, work of literature, work of scientific research, anything, you share it with the world. You share it with the world. You share it with the world through publishers. Publishers do not write book. They take the right of your book. They take the right of your books. And for that right of your books, because it's your work, your mehnat, your caliber, your talent, for that right, they give you an amount which is called royalty. Publisher को क्या मिलेगा? Publisher will sell books. Publisher will get the money of the books. But for you, you will get the royalty. So royalty is generally an income which is taxed as an income under the PGBP as a profession, etc. So uska deduction, income ka deduction is allowed under ATQQB. Obviously, when you have royalty, you're showing it as your PGBP income. Wahan pe expenditures in relation to royalty, you would have claimed it as deduction under your PGBP head. We're not concerned about it. We are concerned about the deduction which is allowed for that income, which is royalty. So first of all, this is allowed only to an resident individual. First thing, eligible assessee, only resident individual, not everyone. So ATQQB is only for resident individuals. Secondly, the deduction which is allowed here is the eligible royalty. What is the eligible royalty? I'll come to it. Or 3 lakhs, whichever is less. So if the royalty is 2 lakhs, then the deduction would be 2 lakhs. If the royalty is 5 lakhs, deduction would be 3 lakhs. So the maximum deduction which you can claim under ATQQB is 3 lakhs. Okay. Now the question comes, what is eligible royalty, ma'am? So royalty में ना guys 2 type की होती है. एक होता है lump sum, एक होता है based on the set copies which are sold. One is lump sum, one is based on the copies which are sold. Okay. So if I'm talking about lump sum, then there is no problem. But if I'm talking about based on the copies which are sold, then in that case, the royalty should not be more than 15%. The royalty should not be more than 15%. If it is more than 15%, so the eligible royalty ka amount hai, it would be capped to 15% only. The eligible royalty amount would be capped to 15%. So suppose I'm getting royalty of, 1 second. Lump sum के केस में नहीं, copies के केस में मेरा royalty का agreement set हुआ है that I will get a royalty at the rate of 18%. Say, okay, so I've received a royalty of let me make an amount which you can understand through Suppose I've received a royalty of 2,34,000. This is basically at the rate of 18% of the books sold. But guys, eligible royalty is only to the extent of 15%. So to compare, I will not compare 234 or 3 lakhs. First of all, I have to come to a point of eligible royalty. And eligible royalty cannot be more than 15%. So 234 is 18% of the book sold. अगर यही मुझे 15% निकालना हो, तो what would be 15%? What would be the 15% amount? 234 divided by 18 into 15, simple. Which would come to 1,95,000. So 1,95,000 or 3 lakhs, whichever is lower, which is 195, would be allowed as deduction. Even if I've received 234, that is not the concern. The concern here is that you have to compare it by 3 lakhs or 15% maximum. So suppose my royalty rate is 12%, that I will get 12% royalty for every book sold. Then 12, I don't have to come to that 15% value. The problem would be only if the royalty is more than 15%, which in present time, real life mein koi itna deta nahi hai. But if the question comes, then you have to bring your royalty first to 15% to compare it. I'm not saying कि ऊपर taxable भी 15 होगा. Taxable तो whatever royalty you're receiving in your PGBP head, that would be taxable net of expenses. I am saying the amount which would be allowed as or which would be taken up for eligible royalty for comparison would be up to 15%. Ma'am, lump sum royalty क्या होता है? Lump sum मतलब one time royalty दे दिया. It's not based on books sold. I've decided that royalty would be given so an amount. That is called lump sum royalty. So lump sum royalty and 3 lakhs to compare करोगे. Okay. Next part which you have to remember is that एक second. That the royalty should be brought to India also. Suppose I'm selling a book internationally, which is more common, right? Which is more common. If I'm selling a book internationally, so uska royalty maybe I might be receiving it in foreign remittance, right? Foreign exchange, US dollars में royalty मिल रहा है. तो उसको मुझे remit करना होगा in India. I'm saying it in Hindi that has to be remitted to in India in the sense that it has to be converted into Indian currency and brought to India. The context is it should be brought to India before 6 months from the end of the previous year. Before 6 months from the end of the previous year in which such royalty income is earned to make it competent to make it eligible for claiming the deduction. To make it eligible for claiming the deduction. अगर मैंने royalty को India में नहीं लाया, that means I have not converted and brought it or remitted it into India, then it would not be eligible for claiming deduction. Now suppose out of this 195, I've already brought or remitted or converted 1 lakh rupees. 1 lakh rupees. So 1 lakh and 3 lakh का comparison होगा. 1 and 3 का comparison होगा. So first criteria is that you have to bring the royalty in India. It should be within 15% as an eligible royalty. Then you compare it with 3 lakh, whichever is less would be allowed as deduction. Would be allowed as deduction. One second, let's do one question. But royalty की जगह copyright word लिखो तो भी confuse मत होना guys. Royalty, copyright, lump sum royalty, it's one and the same thing, okay? And book can be any book. It can be a book of artistic nature, scientific nature, but it would not include commentaries, articles. अब थोड़ा छोटा सा article दे दिया, उसके लिए honorarium मिला, that is not royalty, right? If newspaper may have given one article, उसके लिए if you're receiving an honorarium, that is not royalty. So अब one question which you might ask, ma'am, if there are joint authors, like दो authors है एक book के, happens, right? Ren and Martin, right? So what would happen in that case? So each author would get 3 lakh ka reduction. So if I have to say, for example, you tell me, okay, A ने 3 books author करा, यहाँ पे एग्जाम्पल लिखते हैं. पहले यहाँ ये वाला एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं जो हमारा बुक में Mr. Akash received a royalty of 2,88,000, okay, from a foreign country for a book authored by him, being a work of literary nature. The rate of royalty is 18% of the value of books. The expenditure incurred by him for earning this royalty was 40,000. The amount remitted to India till 30th September 2022 is 2,30,000. The remaining amount was not remitted till 31st March. Compute the amount included in the gross total income for Mr. Akash and the amount of deduction which he is eligible for eligible under section 80QQB. Sorry. So 2,88,000 less 40,000, so he must have claimed it under PGBP, under the gross total income. That is not a criteria. हमें क्या ध्यान रखना है? We have to see that 288, guys, is actually 18%, but we need 15% for the eligible part. So this comes to 2,40,000. Problem is that only 2,30,000 is being brought to India. Only 2,30,000 is brought to India. So comparison should not be from 240. The comparison should be 230. But is 230 में से already 40,000 का expenditure has been claimed as deduction. So the comparison criteria would be 190 or 3 lakh, whichever is less, which is actually 190. So 190 would be allowed as deduction under section 80Q2B. Naturally, whatever expenses you have claimed should be less and then compared with 3 lakh wala limit. Or first you can say you compare it and then reduce the expenditure. Reason being, obviously expenditure आपने claim करके already gross total income you have reduced, shown at a lesser amount. So remember to reduce the expenses and then compare it. Got it? So 80QQB is generally for royalty only allowed to resident individual. But here you have to remember that the maximum reduction which will be available is 3 lakhs. The royalty can be lump sum royalty. Royalty can be in respect of percentage of the book sold, any advance payment. Everything would come to royalty. But royalty only in respect of literature work as an author. Not royalty in respect of patents, because that we have RRB. Not an amount which you have received for giving any commentaries, any brochures, any textbook schools, that would not be covered here. How would you claim the deduction? First, you have to claim the deduction basis the royalty which you have received. Come to a perspective रॉयल्टी उसमें से whatever is brought to India that has to be taken. जितना भी आपका brought to India है उसको you will compare it with the 3 lakh वाला limit. Whichever is less would be allowed. But yes, whatever expenditures you have claimed while claiming while showing royalty, that would be reduced and then it would be claimed and then it would be compared. Got it? इसका डिडक्शन क्लेम करने के लिए भी एक फॉर्म इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू बी फिल्ड which is form 10 CCD, which you don't have to remember at your stage. Queries, guys? और ऐसा भी हो सकता है guys, at your stage I don't know if it would happen or not as a question, but you should remember 15% आपको किसका करना है, of the revenue or the sale price. Question में if it can come as a tricky question also to you, if it's written 15% of the value of the book sold. So you have to do on the 15% of the value of the book sold, which would be the selling price. Okay, author publisher को क्या revenue हो रहा है वो आपको कौन सी percentage पे दे रहा है? No, it should be 15% of the sale price of the book. तो क्वेश्चन में ये भी हो सकता है नंबर ऑफ कॉपीज दिया हो, सपोज नंबर ऑफ कॉपीज इज गिवन से 4000, उसका सेल प्राइस दिया होगा से 150 रुपीज, उसका 12% यू विल डू और 15% यू विल डू और रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू द रॉयल्टी अमाउंट विच एवर इज देयर. तो ऐसा हो सकता है दैट यू माइट बी रिसीविंग रॉयल्टी एट 12% ऑफ योर रेवेन्यू, उन्होंने कोई और परसेंटेज सेट किया हो, बट यू हैव टू सी 15% ऑफ द बुक सोल्ड. ऐसा नहीं है कि ब्लाइंडली 12% लिखा हुआ है तो यू से इट इज विद इन द लिमिट. नो, 12% ऑफ व्हाट, you have to compare it with 15% of the book sold. Okay, कभी कभार कॉपीज प्रिंटेड का हो सकता है, इट कैन बी एनीथिंग, सो इट्स जस्ट नॉट, यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन द वर्ड बुक सोल्ड का वैल्यू. ऐसा नहीं है कि ब्लाइंडली 10% लिखा है तो 10% कर दिया, 20% वो किसका था. ओके, a question can come as a trick question or a googly question like this. So the deduction of 190 Sudhanshu would be allowed as 80 QQB में. So in a way, the royalty which you earn is which is your income. उसमें से expenses claim किया, that is right. But you're also receiving the deduction of that income under 80 QQB as deduction for certain income to an extent of 3 lakhs. Prithvi, the amount should be remitted to India within 6 months from the end of the previous year. In which this royalty is taxable. Or if RBI says some other time period, then that time period. अब आप बोलोगे कि मैम प्रैक्टिकली अगर हमें कब पता कि आएगा नहीं आएगा, एवरीवन हैज अ कंट्रोल कि कब कितना आएगा. ओके, मैं इसको और इजी करती हूँ. लेट्स राइट इट लाइक दिस so that it can become easy for you. Royalty का deduction would be actual received, ठीक है, और 15% of the book sold, which is my eligible royalty, prescribed royalty, because actual received can be any percentage of any amount. But यहाँ पे again I'm focusing on the word 15% of the value of the book sold, that is MRP into the copies sold. You can receive royalty based on the printing edition also. Suppose 1000 copies print kiye, but sell only 800 हुए. So you have to calculate this 15% of 800 into MRP. But you might be receiving royalty on 1000 into the MRP into a certain percentage. So do not get fooled just by the percentage, or 3 lakh, whichever is less. ठीक है, इसमें से if any expense has been claimed as deduction, once this amount comes, reduce that expense. That would be your final 80 QQB. और इसको ऐसे सिंपल कर देते, ठीक है. अब actual received 15% of book sold में यहाँ पे just remember that it should not be more than the amount not repatriated to India. If the repatriated amount is less, then you have to pick that less amount. If the repatriated amount is more, then you have to pick the 15% वाला amount. Got it? इसको ऐसे याद कर लो और easy हो जाएगा. ठीक है भूमिका, is it clear now? Sudhanshu, ऊपर the royalty, whatever royalty you are receiving should be your PGBP income, which is this. Actual received royalty minus expenditure directly related to royalty which you can claim. ये PGBP income का part है, right? यहाँ पे for the deduction of 80 QQB, you have to see what is the amount which has to be claimed as deduction. अब 80 QQB आ गया ना, तो 80 RRB तो is more simple, very simple वहाँ पे, और भी easy. So 80 RRB is a deduction in respect of royalty, but on patents. The royalty on literature work, guys, will go under section QQB. Royalty on patents, trademarks, etc. would go under RRB. अब मैंने कोई formula develop किया, उसको patent करा दिया. That is royalty, which will go under 80 RRB. Suppose I developed some picture and I patented it. That is 80 RRB. Songs 80 RRB. So उसमें भी again the limit is same. Royalty or max 3 lakhs, whichever is less, would be allowed as deduction. 80 RRB में royalty or 3 lakhs. So at your case, the question is more likely to come from 80 QQB because वहाँ पे वो 15% वाला check is there. But 80 RRB में again royalty or 3 lakhs, whichever is less, would be allowed as deduction. This is again also allowed to only resident individual. यहाँ पे भी दोनों cases में royalty which is received outside India should be repatriated to India within 6 months from the end of the previous year in which the royalty is taxable. Otherwise, you will not claim as exemption or deduction for it. Next is 80TTA. Last के दो sections रहेगा guys, 80TTA and 80TTP. Then we will do one question, then we will do one revision, and then we will be good to go. Okay. तो ATTTA is only allowed to, दोनों का कंपैरिजन क्या करते हैं, ये अदर इनकम्स के सेक्शन पे आते हैं. बोथ आर फॉर इंटरेस्ट, बट हियर ATTTA इज फॉर सेविंग बैक इंटरेस्ट. Is for saving bank interest, and ATTTB is on the other hand for FD or any interest, FD, savings, recurring deposits. So can I say ATTTA is allowed only for individuals and HUF other than senior citizens, because the resident senior citizens will claim deduction under ATTTB. ATTTA is only allowed to individual HUF for their income which is included in the gross total income, which is in the form of saving bank interest. Saving bank interest, guys, saving account hota hai, fixed account hota hai, only on the saving bank interest. And you can get this saving bank interest from obviously banks, from cooperative banks, or from post office. Post office be saving interest, okay? So, or from the post office. In say saving bank interest, whatever is included in your gross total income would be allowed as deduction to the extent of 10,000. So the interest or 10,000, whichever is less. Interest or 10,000, whichever is less, would be allowed as deduction under ATTTA. So suppose I have received saving bank interest of 7,000. Where will I show? Under the head income from other sources, right? And I will claim as deduction under ATTTA as 7,000. Simple. I have received FD interest of 15,000. Where will I show? Again, under the head income from other sources. Can I claim ATTTA for that? No, because it is only for saving bank interest and no other interest. Saving bank. Time deposit, demand deposit. Demand deposit matlab saving bank. Time deposit like recurring deposit, fixed deposit, which are payable after the completion of time. Okay. So here in this section, resident senior citizens cannot claim deduction. Why so? Because उनके लिए exclusive section है. Resident senior citizen के लिए we have an exclusive section which is called ATTTB. So they would, any resident senior citizen, ATTTA not applicable. Only ATTTB is applicable. Non-resident senior citizen, ATTTA, because ATTTB is only for resident senior citizen. So now what is for resident senior citizen? So this section is not a very old section. It was introduced with an extent that senior citizens generally have interest income, maybe from FD, maybe from RD. So from that perspective, this section was allowed as, was introduced, and here all types of interest which are coming from same bank, cooperative bank, and post office in the form of saving, fixed, recurring deposit, any type interest would be allowed as deduction to the extent of 50,000. So you see that senior citizen have got the deduction of 50,000. Number one, have got the deduction on FD and recurring interest also. Whereas other than senior citizen, only 10,000 and only on saving bank interest. Only on saving bank interest. So suppose if Mr. J, who is a senior citizen, has FD interest of 5,000, saving interest of 6,000, and recurring deposit of 8,000. So if 5, 6 plus 8, total 19,000, Pura ka pura deduction would be allowed under 80TTB. And also first you have to treat it as income under section, under the head other sources. Okay? So 19,000 as 80TTB, and obviously first you will treat it as income. Income treat करना जरूरी है because all these deductions are from gross total income. And यहाँ पे we are talking from the deduction perspective. चाहे वो royalty हो, where we saw, चाहे these interest हो, all these are part of your total income. We are only talking to the extent how much they are deductible as deductions. Okay. Clear? Ankit, I don't think so. This is a relevant question here. Mohammed, 15% restriction is only applicable to royalty received other than lump sum. Lump sum पे कोई restriction नहीं है. Lump sum is like one time मिल गया. 15% is if it's a recurring royalty, which would be either based on books sold, printed, whatever is the percentage. Correct, Mohammed. 40,000 आपने already expenditure वहां पे claim कर लिया. So 40,000 जितना expenditure royalty income से claim किया है, उतना expenditure would be reduced from 80 QQB also. कहीं पे किसी को doubt? Let's take a quick revision, or first let's do a question. Let's do a quick revision so that fresh it can be covered up. Okay. I will open here your, let us encapsulate. On the screen, everyone, guys. So we did the deductions from section 80C to 80U. There are certain deductions which are excluded specifically at your level, which would be covered at final level, and all those deductions are in relation to deduction for certain income, which is under heading C, chapter 6A. In the first class, we started with deductions under 80C. This is only allowed for individuals and HF. Like these are for tax saving investments, which we commonly called as. There can be multiple options for which you can tax save, and it's not necessary that you have to pool all your funding in one. You can pool your funding in different types of options available. Commonly PPF, LIC, FD, your superannuation funds, tuition fees, repayment of housing loan, term deposits, which is your fixed deposit, NABARD bonds, senior citizen savings scheme, Sukanya Samriddhi scheme, everything is covered here. But the maximum deduction allowed is 1,50,000 under section 80C. 80CCC is again a section which is only applicable to individuals for contribution to pension funds of LIC. Here also maximum reduction is 1,50,000. 80CCD has three subsections where you can claim the reduction: subsection 1, subsection 2, and subsection 1B. Subsection 1 and 1B are for individual contribution, as an employee or as an employer. As an employee or as a self, whatever contribution I'm making. 80CCD subsection 1 may the maximum deduction which is allowed is contribution or 10% of salary, whichever is lower. 80CCD 1 plus 80CC triple C plus 80C Total milake, the limit is 1,50,000. 80CCD subsection 1B may you get additional 50,000, and 80CCD subsection 2 may you get the employer contribution ka deduction, which is already shown as salary while you were computing salary. Employer contribution ka deduction is allowed up to 14 or 10% of salary or actual contribution, whichever is lower. 80D is for medical insurance premium or preventive health checkup or medical treatment in case of no insurance for senior citizen. Here, individual and HUF get the deduction of 25,000 for self, spouse, dependent children, plus additional 25,000 for parents. Self, spouse, dependent children, they can pay the premium, they can pay the CGHS contribution, they can get preventive health checkup. Preventive health checkup only to the extent of 5,000 and can be in cash is allowed. And another 25,000 for parents, which is again for their premium or for their medical for their premium or for their CGHS contribution or preventive health checkup. Medical treatment expenditure can be allowed in 80D provided there is no insurance premium going on for the person. That in that case, it would be allowed. Whenever a senior citizen is there, either in the self category or in the parents category, 25,000 limit is increased by another 25,000. It goes to 50,000 each. Then 80DD is for maintenance of dependent disabled. This deduction is allowed to resident individuals or HUL, and there is a flat deduction of 75,000 in case of general disability or normal disability, and 125,000 in case of severe disability. The person who is maintaining the dependent is allowed deduction, provided the dependent disabled is not claiming ATU. The deduction can be claimed if you are spending any amount. Spending is important, amount is not important because there is a flat deduction. Spending can be on maintenance, spending can be on nursing, spending can be on medical treatment, and spending can be on, even on insurance amount. In case anything happens to Ceci, then at least someone is there to take care of, some amount is there. 80DDB is for specified diseases. Specified diseases of individual, the patient can be individual or the spouse, children, parents, brother who are dependent on it. Okay, so dependent word is here also, dependent word is in 80DD also. Here the deduction is based on actual expenditure or 40,000, whichever is less, but if the patient is senior citizen, it is 1 lakh. Minus any amount which has been claimed as reimbursement from employer or has been taken as claim for insurance company. 80E is only allowed to individuals for interest on loan of higher education. It is allowed for 8 assessment years from the year when you are paying the interest amount, or the interest amount is allowed as deduction. Education can be in India, can be in abroad. Education can be for self, spouse, children, or for any student for whom you are a legal guardian. 80EE is allowed again for interest, but for individuals who are taking loan as a first-time home buyers or who do not have loan, who do not have house at the time of getting this particular house. But remember, the reduction is for interest, which is over and above the 24B ka interest, and other conditions which have to be fulfilled is loan should be sanctioned between so and so time. It should be less than 35 lakhs. House property value should be less than 50 lakhs. To compensate this section, because the window was only 1 year, 80EE came in where the window was from April 19 to March 22. Here the criteria is on stamp duty value. Remember, stamp duty value is used in 80EE, not in 80EE. So stamp duty value should be less than 45 lakhs and the assessee should not have any residential house. Here again, the limit is from 50,000, it has gone to 1,50,000, and this is over and above 24B. 80EEB, it is for electric vehicle. Loan can be taken from bank or even NBFCs. Interest deduction allowed is 1,50,000. But the loan should be sanctioned between 1st April 2019 to 31st March 23. 80G is for donations for all assessees. There are 4 categories: 100%, 50%, 100%, and 50%. The first two categories are without any ceiling limit. That is, whatever donation you make, you can claim it as 100 or 50%. Remember that all prime ministers, chief ministers, national, etc. fund goes under 100% deduction, but except Prime Minister Drought Relief Fund, Jawaharlal Nehru Fund, Indira Gandhi Fund, and Rajiv Gandhi Fund. Those goes under 50%. 100% reduction will subject to qualifying limit pay, family planning, and your Olympic Association is there. उसके अलावा all the donation would go to 50% with qualifying limit. Church, Gurdwara, mosque, charitable trust, NGOs, all of these comes under 50% provided the donee is registered under ATG subsection 5. 80GG, which we started from today, this is for rent, but provided the individual is not receiving house rent allowance. If he's receiving house rent allowance, he will claim exemption 1013A. So here rent reduction is allowed on three conditions, whichever is lower. 25% of the adjusted total income, rent paid minus 10% of the adjusted total income of 5,000 per month, which is 60,000 for the year, whichever is less. Remember, for which you're claiming rent in that city, you should not, or your spouse or your minor children should not own any house. 80GGB, contribution to political parties, and 80GGC, contribution to political parties or electoral trust. GGB is for Indian company, GGC is for other than Indian companies. No donation in cash allowed as deduction. 80JJA, 30% for 3 consecutive years as a cost of additional employees would be allowed. Remember here all the points. Assessee who is only eligible for tax audit can claim the deduction. The deduction will be allowed for 3 consecutive years for additional employees. 80QQB pay deduction is allowed for royalty, which is already taken as a part of your gross total income. The royalty deduction would be the actual receipt, 3 lakhs, or the eligible royalty, which is up 15% of the actual books sold. Okay. 80 RRB may be royalty is there, but it is for patent or trademarks, and it is again the royalty amount of 3 lakh, whichever is less. 80 TTA, 10,000 maximum reduction allowed to individual HF other than resident senior citizen, because resident senior citizen goes under 80 TTB. A may only saving bank interest is allowed, but 80 TTB may FD, recurring deposit, any interest coming from banking company, cooperative banks, or post office is allowed. 80U is for resident individual who himself is disabled. He can claim a flat deduction of 75,000 and 1,25,000 if the person is severely disabled. Here there is no deduction relation to expenditure or income. It's a flat deduction given to a disabled person. Phew. So from my side, this is all. Tell me anywhere you need any help first, and then we'll do a question. I'll come to the question also. Guys, समझ आया सारा? This quick 10-minute recap also, is it clear? Yes, Mohammed, he can. Okay. So one big question, this question can also come as a good 8 to 8 marker also. So let's understand. Mr. Gurnam, aged 42 years, has a salary income computed. Computed word लिख दिया, so please do not do again 50,000 less. For 5,50,000, save interests from saving bank 14,500. Compute the total income, saying that he does not opt for 115 BSc. LIC premium paid to Birla Sun Life Insurance in cash, amounting to 25,000 for insurance of life of his dependent parents. The insurance policy was taken on 15 July 2019, and the sum assured on the life of the dependent is 2 lakh. इसका डिडक्शन मिलेगा गाइस? नहीं मिलेगा एटीसी में? No. Why so? Because it's for parents. Parents only come in 80D, not on 80C. 80C means only self, spouse and children. ये वेरिएशन करना बहुत जरूरी है. This extra information given is just to confuse you. Okay? So this is not to be considered. Next, life insurance premium paid of 25,500 for son who is not dependent on him. The sum assured on life of his son is 3,50,000 and the life insurance policy was taken on 30th of March 2012. First of all, lots of information. Son not dependent does not matter. Dependency matters only in 80D. Remember? So ऐसे ही relate करोगे तभी you will remember it. Okay. So 25,500 would be allowed because 3,50,000 इसका sum assured है और उससे पहले 1st April 2012 से पहले वैसे भी 20% was allowed. So 25,500 का premium would be allowed. No problem in that. तो यहाँ पे 80C में एक और हमें आ गया 25,500. Then life insurance premium, okay, paid by check of 22,500 for insurance of his life. The policy was taken on 8 September and the sum assured was 2 lakh. तो इसमें कितना मिलेगा guys? Only 2 lakh का 10% because policy is taken after 1st April 2012 and 10% is only allowed. So 20,000 would be allowed. 80C में. So 80C में अभी तक आ गए 25,500 and 20,000 which is 45,500. Let's proceed. 1,500 paid in cash for his health checkup and 4,500 paid in check for preventive health checkup for his parents who are senior citizens. Okay. 1,500 अब यहाँ पे ग्रुप बना लेते हैं. अच्छा एक I missed, sorry. Premium of 26,000 paid by check for health insurance for self and wife. ठीक है, ये भी मिलेगा. तो 80D में one category 26 plus 1,500, right? Another category 4,500. Category for parents and category for self, spouse and dependent children. तो यहाँ पे maximum कितना मिलेगा 25,000 and यहाँ पे 4,500. So total 29,500 is for 80D. Next, paid interest of 6,500 on loan taken from bank for MBA course pursued by his daughter, allowed in 80E. Sum of 5,000 donated in cash to an institution approved does not matter because it is donated in cash. So this would not come. So one deduction is under 80C for 45,500, under 80D for 29,500, under 80E for 6,500. Any other deduction left? Yes. 80TTA for the interest. कोई नहीं बोलेगा 80TTA लेना है. You have to be self-aware that saving bank interest है 80TTA लेना है. Senior citizen है FD का interest है, saving interest है 80TTB लेना है. Okay, so this is how you compute it, and all of these things which we have discussed, that why you are taking, why you are not taking, should be part of your working notes always. Be very generous to write for the work notes. Otherwise, it would be not correct. Okay. Sorry, I believe the question wasn't visible. Is it now? Sorry, the screen was frozen. Sorry. Check all points. यहाँ पे कहीं पे भी किसी को doubt है, we can discuss it again. Prithvi, very good question. While calculating qualifying limit, you have to compute the amount from gross total income minus all deductions except ATG. तो इसमें ये नहीं है कि ATG में जिसमें 100% ले लिया, नहीं, except ATG. ATG का कुछ नहीं माइनस कर. Okay. I will read it quickly again. Gurnam ka 550 was an income. 14,500 was saving bank interest. So now we have to compute his deductions. First deduction would not be allowed because here the deduction for LIC premium is paid for the parents and parents are not allowed. Dependent, non-dependent parents are only taken for 80D when we talk about premium for health insurance. Second deduction, which is there for major son, and major son is not dependent, still he can claim it because dependencies are not a criteria for 80C. Dependency is a criteria for 80D for children. Okay. So here 3,50,000 ka 20% के under it is coming, so 25,500 can be claimed pura. LIC paid for self would also be allowed, provided it is within the limit of the capital sum assured. यहाँ पे since the policy was after 1st April 2012, so only 10% would be allowed as deduction. Premium for self would be allowed as deduction. Premium for wife would also be allowed as deduction. Preventive health checkup for self and parents both would be allowed as deduction, but parents ka would go under parents category of 4,500 and 1,500 would go under my category, which is 1,500 plus 26,000. So total 25,000 only would be allowed as deduction. Interest paid would be allowed as deduction under 80E. Donation, since it is in cash, would not be allowed as deduction. Also, 80TDA would be there since it's a saving bank interest ka question. Got it? Clear, Akhilesh? So 80D and 80DDB का अगर मैं बात करूं, 80D में medical treatment comes if no insurance, ठीक है? And इसका limit is 50,000. And here 80DDB में medical treatment as in only for specified diseases count, not for all diseases, only specified diseases. Now suppose Mr. X के parents हैं, Mr. X का father है, ठीक है? Father of Mr. X. He got medically treated and the expenditure was 1,50,000. ठीक है? It was for a specified disease. So X has an option to claim 1 lakh under 80DDB and 50,000 under 80D. Now, suppose his father के treatment expenditure was only 40,000. So X has an option to claim 40,000 under 80DDB. He can claim it in 80D also, but both where he will not claim. And it is all with the condition that the father does not have insurance. Now suppose father का medical treatment में expenditure हुआ 3 lakhs, but it was not for a specified disease. So nothing would be claimed under 80DDB. Only 50,000 would be claimed under 80D. So you have to differentiate it like that. Is it clear now, Akhilesh? An employee who is employed for less than 250 days for the first 2 years of joining, can he be eligible for deduction under 80JJ in the subsequent year in which he is employed for 240 days? First of all, it's practically absurd, Mohammed. Again, I would say at your level, prepare questions, let questions. I'm not saying do restrict your understanding. All I'm trying to say first, understand the concept. Now coming to your question, 240 days, उसने इस साल नहीं किया. Right. Next year, if he's there for 240 days, then only he would be considered as additional employee, even if he was not the new employee. Even if he was already in the opening numbers, still he would be considered as new employee. This is the explaining point for understanding that less than 240 days wala people. कि even if वो next year के new employees के number में नहीं है, next year new employees 20 है, but क्योंकि that 10 employees in the previous year were working for less than 240 days. Those also plus 10 would be included as new employees for this year. This is the understanding. Okay. It's not that every year you work for less than 240 days and you would be carry forwarded. That is not an understanding for you. Okay. Anyone has any other doubt from the chapter deductions from gross total income? समझ आया नहीं आया interesting लगा because I honestly like deductions, TDS, these chapters very nicely because these can be related also from your daily life, and these are very, very important chapters. You practically also you cannot miss them. Okay, so I hope all of your queries have been answered. Can we wrap up our class? So today we went at a very slow pace purposely so that you people can relate to some of those technical sections. I hope today's class was fruitful and I wish you all the very, very best for your future ahead. Do not worry with the volume of the syllabus. Just do whatever you do with all heads and mind there. Do not think about other things. Whenever you're focusing on one thing, just focus on that completely. If you want to do deductions from all the places, RTPs, whatever question papers you have, read it completely, make notes, then you will say that it is wrapped up. Otherwise, just flipping would be the last stage. Problem kya hai, when we prepare for the first time, we prepare it as if we are revising it. Revising technique is different. Preparing for the first time technique is different. Revising it for the second time is different. Revising it during the exam is different. But अगर हम सबको एक ही तरीके से करेंगे, that is what makes the problem. That is why we are unable to clear it, because we don't give that dedicated time at each stage. Unabsorbed depreciation ko you can set off against any other head of income or month except salary. Thank you so much, Prithvi. Thank you so much, Bhumika. Thank you all and wish you all the very, very best. Thank you.